Hi, everyone. It's Andrea Quagenti, and I'm here for tonight's self-directed education group call. This is our fifth call, and I just wanted to apologize. I'm sorry that we had to cancel last Thursday, but we had to change it to Tuesdays, and I had an internet issue where I am. I'm in Florida right now. You can see it's really nice. And yeah, so now my internet is working, and this is going to be every Tuesday. So I'm here right now with Cynthia Turner. And if anyone else shows up, we'll welcome them and chat. But Cynthia and I were just talking about the origin of the self-directed education group on Facebook. So I was just saying that me, Angela Young, and a couple other parents created the group because we couldn't find anywhere to talk about unschooling or self-directed education. So Cynthia, I don't know about you, but we just use those two words interchangeably. Do you?
The unschooling and self-directed?
Self-directed education, yeah.
I find a strong correlation. I think one of the reasons I don't in a technical way is because, and this goes back to ASDE, which was started, it'll be 6 years this summer. I believe summer of 2016 it started. And so I had heard the term before, but I think when they started the Alliance for Self-Directed Education started, then the word just became a big thing. And because their organization actually goes beyond home education, and it goes into democratic schools and Sudbury schools, which are not home education. So for my mind personally, those all went under the self-directed umbrella, which they are. It just happens that some of it is in a school setting and some of it is in home education, whereas unschooling is part of the actual distinct legal choice to, that's under the home education. So in a technical sense, no, but in a philosophical sense, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And I think that's where we're, that's basically what what Angela and I were saying with the group is that, basically it's the same philosophy. One is executed at home. The other is executed in a school setting, or even a learning center, which I'm sure you've seen, the learning centers. So yeah. So Angela and I and a couple other parents that were, her children have been going to a Sudbury school for like 5 years, and I had been unschooling at home, and we both started in Montessori. Both of our children started in Montessori, and then we kind of graduated to even more freedom. So I had been executing the unschooling at home, and that's how the group was formed, because I could not find a place to talk to people about this. And I did join the Alliance for Self-Directed Education. I'm a member on their site, and somehow I got on, and so first I became a member, but then I realized that I put some messages up in the chat, but it wasn't very active. And then we started this group where it was more active, to chat about it. And I speak with the association, the call that you and I were on, which is if you're gathering self-directed education people, there's a call for that. If anybody wants to know personally, you can just Facebook me and I'll tell you more. So that's where Cynthia and I met, and we happen to both be from Massachusetts. I'm not in Massachusetts right now, but I'm from Mass. So yeah, so that's how the group was started, and we're just so happy that now we have a place to talk about this, and we can invite people to learn more. So what I started to notice when I started to homeschool in 2019, and this was before COVID, so there was tons of homeschooling stuff going on, and I didn't realize how many different styles of homeschooling there was. And I don't know, a part of me thought I would meet a ton of homeschoolers and unschoolers and a ton of like self-directed, and I was not. I was going to play dates and everybody was like, curriculum, curriculum, curriculum. And I was like, I'm not, is anyone unschooling? So what I noticed, and this is just me personally, is that I did not meet a lot of local unschoolers. We did visit the Sudbury School in Mass, which was awesome, but the commute from Danvers to Sudbury, Mass, it was just too far. It was over an hour both ways.
Yeah.
So now, yay, we have this group where we can talk about unschooling or self-directed education. And now we decided to have these calls just so we could talk more and answer people's questions, and open the dialogue and just offer support for people, and also for people that are currently supporting parents and the children to kind of gather resources. So do you want to, maybe this is you offer resources. Do you want to tell everyone about your resource? I know it's local, but it's still great just to know that it exists, what you're doing. And I think it's awesome.
Yeah. And so I'm not sure how this works. If I throw something in the chat, does that for anyone who's going to watch the recording, do they have access to?
They won't
any
have access
writing
to the chat, but what
Okay.
I can do is once I upload this, I can put it in the not in the comments. Yes, I can put it in the description in the comments. So you can tell me and I'll write, or you can even, however you want to tell me.
Yeah, I might put it in after I talk because I haven't had dinner yet. So that even that 2-part multitasking is tricky. But so I'm in Framingham, and I'm actually about 10 minutes from that Sudbury Valley School, which we checked out. My daughters are 17 and almost 22. She'll be 22 next month. And we began home ed in 2006. And have been ever since. And so living in Framingham, we obviously didn't have the commute problem, but we had gone to at least one open house at the Sudbury Valley School as a backup. My older daughter went to an independent kindergarten, which it was a great experience for her, and we were just kind of on the fence, and then we made the leap to home ed. But life being what it can be, we wanted a backup, and the public school was there if we needed it, but we wanted something else. And so that was always our backup, which we never ended up using, the Sudbury School. So yeah, so I've just been thrilled to be part of the home ed community for so long. Not quite as physically active in the community anymore because my girls are older, so the park days don't quite happen. And various things, and I'm not shuffling them off to different things. And so now we have more of an adult relationship, and we will still do what you would call field trips. We still love exploring together, but so but in terms of the resources to which you're referring, I've been a home ed / community advocate for almost as long as we've been doing home education, and which means part of that means have facilitated group and individual discussions for a long time. And I worked with AHEM for 5 years. So that's a Massachusetts state organization for anyone not in Massachusetts. And I worked with the other state organization for a year before that. So, and that's I just kind of found my thing. And so I've been doing that for a long time, and just working with parents who are considering new to home education, making that transition, and even actually some veteran, and this is where it gets into the deschooling part, because they're obviously past the transition part. But then it's the whole, burnout, and I want to look for something different. So then we get into the whole deschooling and so forth. And so from that started my organization, Initiatives for Community-Based Living, and so that's kind of at its core, but community-based living really touches every part of our lives. And so it branches out into other initiatives. One of them is that I'm looking to grow is to working with teenagers, and getting the larger community used to having teenagers as much a part of the community as adults are. And vice versa, although home ed teens are a little more adapt to the community. And there's a lot more to say about that, but that's an example of one. And then it goes into other things, mental health, and just to really get us attached to our community again, whether that's through home education, or whatever it is, and away from being separated by institutions. So one of the initiatives is a Deschooling network, which I have given the acronym DEN, because it's originating in my living room. So if you want to call it a den. And so it is a comfortable space. It's in essence a class I'm doing. It's a serious study group, but fun and relaxed, because I am, low key and all that. So, but it's for those current home ed parents who are really looking to get into the deschooling journey, and really just, watch, read, listen things. So there'll be like a structure, like a class, and we read things together, watch things together, and so forth. And we meet once or twice a month. And, yeah. And so it's, and like you and I were talking about a few minutes ago, Andrea, it's more the parents, right? When kids are pulled from school, they definitely need to detox and so forth. But it's the parents, and that's what I'm focusing on in this one initiative. And I think, well, I know from my experience, from my own experience as a home ed parent, and from working with other parents, that there's so much of a trickle down effect. The parents really need to deschool, and once they're doing that process, it really just permeates the whole family, and then the whole family can kind of be on the same page on that self-directed unschooling, deschooling, journey. So, but that's my bigger, we're the ones with the baggage. We're the ones that went to school growing up, so forth. So that's kind of where that's at. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I noticed the initiative for community-based living, and I was like, ooh, that sounds exciting. Like, what I was wondering what that was about, because I've looked into intentional communities and things like that. Angela and I are like, oh, we need to just create our own community. And but it's not that. It's just the ways that you support the community. So
right. It's not an actual physical geographical.
Okay.
I mean, heck, if there might be some people who take all the same principles that I'm doing in my group, and then they use that in their community, which I really think some exist like that.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what this
Okay.
is. So.
Well, let us know. I mean, I keep, even my daughter and I, we were just talking about it today, and I'm like, well, what's our ideal community? And, she's got this vision of like some farm animals, and like a big pool and a big kitchen that everyone shares. And, the kids are free, and they have like an awesome playground. Yeah.
I know of at least a couple in the States. Actually.
Oh, cool. Wow, you'll have to let me know. Should we, maybe we'll add those once I post it, I'll tag you. And then
I have to look them up to refresh on the names and all, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, so yeah, but anyways, we can get more to what you're doing. I love the the teen support, because and even just having homeschoolers kind of out in society. I hear a lot about that, especially with the Association for Self-Directed Education. They're big advocates of allowing children to be in society. And luckily for us, in the beginning, we tended to get a lot of comments like, "Oh, is there no school today?" Like, in other words, what is this child doing, out and about during school hours? But we're camping right now, and in the camping world, we don't really hear it that much, because there's like a ton of homeschoolers. And I'm not sure if I don't really usually get into details like, oh, are you an unschooler? What I learned, I was so excited at first, and I kind of over talked about things, and people were like, what do you mean? And
Yeah.
it just, so
Overwhelmed.
maybe it's grace, or I've learned a lot about what to say and what not to say. And when I see people like dumbfounded, like I usually just, hey, we love it, but I know that it's not right for everyone. I just change the subject. And how's that? Literally, I just put kind of like a neutral comment, like, we love it, but that's exactly what I say. If someone asks us, hey, oh, no school today, and say, oh no, actually we're homeschoolers. Wow. Well, that must be hard for you to keep up with the curriculum. And I just say, well, we really love it, but I understand it's not right for everyone. And then usually that will deter. And if they start asking more questions, I usually don't actually go into it, because it's, I don't know, maybe you could talk more about that. Maybe that's a good point for some of our listeners. If in our journey, because I think that that's a big deal, and you probably deal with that in your den, is for parents that are like so excited, like, yay, I'm doing this homeschooling thing, I'm doing this unschooling. And then someone asks us about it, and then we're kind of backed into a corner, and people are like, I don't get it. So what do you have kind of a standard recommendation when we get that line of questions, and it's going like, oh my God, that like not good?
It's funny, like I'm laughing to myself as you're asking, because you would think, right? I started in 2006. You would think I had a solid elevator pitch. I don't. Well, I mean, I do and I don't. Like I've gotten asked many times over the years. And I have a whole bunch of friends, that don't home educate. In fact, some of my closer friends have been running the Framingham townwide PTO for many years. So they're not just school parents. They're like, and we're all cool with each other, but so and I've fielded questions from a lot of different people. But it's funny, because just last night I was on, I don't know if it was one of the Massachusetts state groups, or I'm embarrassed to say how many groups I'm in. I honestly, I lost count, but one of the groups I'm in, someone posted their elevator pitch. And I'm like, this is great, because it inspires other parents to do the same thing. Because we all, even if you don't have a formal 30-second thing, we're all going to get asked questions. And I think we all want to feel like, and then some of us are more into answering questions. Clearly, after I just described everything about myself that I've described, I obviously don't mind answering questions, but it's hard to put it concisely. And obviously you have to read your audience. And there's some people they ask, and there's like a certain level of politeness to it, and a dash of curiosity. So then, and if you're able to read that, you give the brief answer, and then there's some people who are like really, so yeah, I haven't, I don't go into the unschooling self-directed thing unless I feel the other person or persons are really looking to have a significant discussion. So I just use the term home education. And, but then, as you know, the questions come, what grade are you in? Well, and so even without using the term, that's when it starts to come out of me. Well, we don't recognize grades. We don't recognize graduation. It's just all life is learning. So I probably sound a little fruity sometimes. I don't know. Oh, life is learning and you know, I mean, it's all true, but so yeah, it's tricky because it's not the same. I've never had two identical conversations ever in all these years. And yeah, it's tricky, but I find if someone actually is mostly curious and interested, they latch on, they really are interested. And then the other thing I do keep in my pocket, verbally, mentally, is a resource I can throw out. Now I have cards of my own that I can give them, but before, I might just say, I might scribble something down, and it might be, whatchamacallit, Laura Grace Weldon's book, Free Range Learning, or it might be Teach Your Own by John Holt, or it might be a certain website, depending on what the conversation is like. I find it's good to, if someone wants to know, here's somewhere they can go look, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, what I realized too is if someone is interested and they do get it, so they usually, that for me, that would be more of a conversation at a homeschool event when they say, oh, I've heard of that. And, when they seem to get it and they're not like, no grades, like, they don't give me that, like, that confused, scared look, then I usually just direct them. I say, well, I can invite you to we have a group on Facebook. It's so nice that I can say that now and have this resource, because for people that are interested in that, do get it, they can just come to the group, they can scroll through posts, they can look at resources. And sometimes that's easier to just follow a conversation. A lot of parents my age, a good amount of people are on Facebook, especially homeschoolers, because it's the way to connect and to find out about the play dates. So I do also share the resource of the group on Facebook, which has been nice. Yeah, but you're right, know your audience, and exactly. So awesome. Well, I noticed hi, I just want to say hi to Ashley, who just popped on. You're welcome to come talk to us, or you can stay on mute and just listen. But if you want to come say hello, you're welcome to.
I'm not sure. I'm kind of new at this. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Oh, good. And in a second I could figure out the video.
Awesome.
I wasn't expecting this to be such a small meeting. I thought I would be anonymous, and I see that I'm one of few people here. Let's see. Oh, there's the video. I think I maybe got it to work.
Yes,
there it is.
I can see you.
Hi.
I've heard that comment before. So, like I said, if you want to be anonymous, you can, or if you want to talk, it's just the three of us. It just happens to be where we're at this evening. And Cynthia is actually a great resource. She's been helping home educators and unschoolers, and she helps with deschooling. So I don't know where you are at your journey. If you want to ask questions, you're more than welcome to. Or again, you can just just listen.
I am interested. I've been unschooling now for most of the pandemic. I think the first year of the pandemic, we pulled our kids out of school and we were homeschooling, and that turned into more of maybe deschooling and then unschooling, and just kind of mostly following our kids' interests. And our kids, luckily, who are 7 and 10, have very strong interests. So it's been easy to follow along with that. And I find myself still struggling with some of the academics, how much to push and how much to really let go. And I found myself like sitting on my hands or covering my mouth, like not to push, just trust that they're gonna get there. And I guess I'm looking for support, more resources to know how much structure to create for our children. I have, our normal daily routines, and our meals are pretty regular, and our wake up time and our bedtime. But within that structure, how much to just let them be free versus, I have heard of some unschoolers who still push a little bit of academic time and then letting the kids choose versus none at all. And I guess I still get a little bit confused in that realm.
Awesome. Cynthia, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Well, I think there's a few different things floating in my head right now. One is personally, I try not to get too caught up in labels. And I'm not implying, Ashley, that you're getting caught up in labels, but it's tempting. What I've noticed myself, particularly at the beginning when I started in 2006, and I've noticed with other parents, you get in there, you're on these forums and you see unschoolers, radical unschoolers, eclectic, whatever, and you want to fit in somewhere because you've entered this new world. So you naturally want to fit in somewhere. And you of course want to have some aim and something for your own family and some framework. So I remember when I started and I understood my mindset, most people would label it as an unschooler. But I'm like, if you go in radical unschooling groups, and I've been in a lot and I'm still in some, and it goes into the whole parenting thing. I do not identify as a radical unschooler. I will just put it out there. So I see myself as a parent, I see myself as the authority. I'm not authoritarian, but at the end of the day, if I need to pull that card, I will pull that card. But I try to work in unison with my kids, but our home education in terms of that is more like unschooling. That being said, with unschooling, you can very much have structure, because if you were to take home education out of the conversation, right? If we were just talking about life, every single person needs structure of some degree. My personal belief and what I've read from just anecdotally and research, children need that for security. They need some degree, and not every child needs the same exact thing because we're all different human beings, but there has to be some base of something. So we're really just talking about life. So like for me personally, while the school part, if you will, never had a coercion or, and so forth, as a parent, I for my kids, I'm like, when we get up in the morning, there is a time to get ready for the day and to take care of us and to take care of our house and to take care of our cats. And these are just life skills. So that's where I put a lot of the structure. So I would write out lists. I would invite them to write them with me, but I would write something out so that there's something visual. Helps with reading, bonus. And hang it up so they know they have this routine, and they know what's expected. I wasn't harsh about it or anything, but I just said, look, we want things to run smoothly. We need to take care of ourselves. and we need to do A before we go out and do B, and so forth. So this is just like life skills. So that's, for me, for our family personally, that's where we put the structure. And the other structure for us was, because when we started, my older was 6, my younger was 2. I'm very strong on nap time. A lot of parents, unschooling or not, are not strong on nap time. That's how I was raised, and that's how I am a firm believer in sleep. I don't care if you don't actually go to sleep, you're gonna rest. And it wasn't just for my sake, because amen, we can all say that moms need to rest, but it was really for their sake too. So I was very protective of their nap time, even if that meant napping in the car. So there was another example of structure that we did. Now I know your kids are older, but so that's—
How old are your kids now?
Oh, I'm sorry, 17 and almost 22. Yeah.
Okay.
And trust me, they're old enough and wise enough to know that, yeah, actually naps are really good. So that's how we started out, because my kids were younger when we started out. And but it just turned into other things, because as they got older, as you know, 7 and 10, and yours are roughly the same age gap as mine. They get into activities, they're being taken to this, or you're all going together to that, or whatever it is. And that was, for us, that was a lot of the framework of our day. So we know we're going to, if it's a day that we have outings, because some days you're home all day, but if it's a day that we're going out to the library or a field trip or getting park day or whatever we're doing, then that gave us a few more bones to work with, to build around, so that we know, okay, then we have this time at home, and these things need to be done. So we just kind of, for me personally, I would write, I still do it to try to get my work done. I will block the day out in hours or 2-hour increments, and to just give some semblance of organization to, okay, so we got to make sure we have enough time to get home, make dinner, and oh, my child wants to do this. Okay, let's make sure we have time to do that, because as you know, as a mom, you don't want to feel like you're cheating your kid, right? If they want to do something and then the schedule's out of hand, and then, oh my gosh, we didn't get time to do that, and then everyone feels bad about it. So there was like a lot of factors, and I really treasure the time that the 3 of us worked together to put that together, so that we could try to meet everyone's needs. You're not going to be perfect about it, but you try to the best you can to meet everyone's needs and pursuits. So I don't know if that was too vague or not. I'm sorry.
No, that's helpful. I could hear this all day. I need more. I want more. I keep explaining to my kids about self-directed learning and telling them, no, I'm not going to force you to do that. If you want to learn math, I'm going to work with you on it. And if you don't want to do it, we're not going to do it now. Both my kids say they want to go to college. One wants to be a scientist. The other wants to go to the NBA. And, because of that, they both say, they need to do certain things. And so I guess I'm still a little bit fuzzy on, well, should I be pushing a little bit of math? And like, is the self-directed part, they choose, when and how much or which curriculum, or is the self-directed part them coming to me like, Mom, I really want to learn math today. Can you help me? Or I guess I'm still a little fuzzy on that part. And then I'm mostly saying math because everything else I feel like they're hitting, just in their daily life. We talk about current events, and through talking about current events, we learn about geography and history, and they love to read. But one of my kids kind of started avoiding math, so I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Well, I think math, I was going to defer it to you, Andrea, if you want to speak, because math, not that you have to speak on it, but math is a chunk within itself. So go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, my style is kind of similar to Cynthia's, and it just happens to be, I don't consider myself a radical unschooler at all. I have a slide, and I'll post it in the group. But I make these memes just to help me remember things. I'll have to post it, but you won't be able to see. So this is life enhancing boundaries. So when my daughter and I decided to homeschool, it was a group decision. She wanted to, and I wanted to. And I said, well, we need to have some, I didn't call them rules, but you know what I said? Agreements. The slide that I have says boundaries, but I love the term agreements. So it's respect for oneself, which is self-care through hygiene and sleep. We're really, really big on sleep. Respect for one's environment, a tidy room and a tidy home. So I just had her make the agreements. I'm a single mom. And I said, well, if you're going to be home, like when it's time to do trash and groceries, you'll have to help me with that. And she agreed, and it's been fine. Respect for one's mind through the process of education. So we do that through the unschooling philosophy. Respect for family and community. We love, helping out, whether we're picking up trash for the community or hanging out with friends and family. So we do have that structure, and I'm also a mindfulness practitioner. So we always eat mindfully, and she doesn't even question it. She knows sometimes when she goes to her friend's house, they get, their plate and they go in front of the TV, but she just knows in our home, we just don't do that. And she's fine with it. She doesn't even really question it. So to get more into what you're saying, if they're like, what I would do, if they're like, I need math, and I would say, yeah, well, would you like me to set aside a half hour a day or an hour a day to do math? Do you want me to, I would just put it back to them and say, like, do you want to start a program? Because I do see myself as the teacher. So if they're asking for something, I would be like, yeah, how would you like that to look? And, I can get a curriculum for that, or an app. I know there's a lot of great apps for math. So I would just see what they want, and definitely give it to them if they want some structured time on a particular topic. I would be like, yum, 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 yeah, let's do it. And just, look for resources and see what they like. And definitely I'm sure you did that, Cynthia, in your journey. I'm sure your girls you have two girls, right, Cynthia?
Yeah.
At some point they got really excited about a subject, and you just, taught it, or, yeah, I mean, you help them learn.
Yeah. And for math, I mean, math is a whole discussion on its own, so I'm not going to delve too deep, but just to say that I try to, in various ways, impart upon my girls that math is a language. In our schooled thinking, and this is not to knock anyone, but this is just how it is. I mean, it's not that I still think this way, but we all went to school. And math, as well as every other subject, is segmented. That's not how our actual minds work, and it's not how natural learning works. But it was, and we all know how many people come out of school or in school that hate math and don't think they can do it. So I tried to impart upon them that math is just a language that explains the world, which that's what it is in its most simplest broken down terms. And so we did a lot of math naturally, like we're huge board game players. And I can tell you that now your kids are already, your youngest is 7, that in terms of learning math, if you do nothing but board games, you can get, by 7 or 8 years old, between basically your kids' ages, you can get all the math you basically need, mostly from just playing board games. Well, and then, but you're also talking about so real life, you're handling money. If you happen to be learning music, yeah, all baking, all kinds of things. So we did a lot of that. I also kept workbooks around, but I never said you must do workbooks. But when you don't have to do something, when you don't have to do workbooks, or you don't have to do textbooks, or you don't have to do curriculum, they can be really exciting sitting there, because they're just another resource like everything else. Like I think that I get really excited to have those things on my bookshelf, because they're really fun to go through. As a kid, I struggled to keep up in school. I was so excited to come home and sit in my den and look through the set of encyclopedias, because no one was telling me to do it, and it was fascinating. So I look the same way so I have the same outlook with curriculum and textbook. It's just another tool. So my kids have said, like you're talking about, I want to do this, I need this. And I'm like, great, let's figure out ways to do this. And so I've offered curriculum. I happen to have some curriculum because I was, when I was working for an organization, I was actually collecting it for for the selling part of for the event. And then I ended up holding a bunch of it. So I had some available. And they're like, yeah, great. And then they never ended up using it, but they were excited about the fact that it was there. And then we had workbooks, which they did dabble in a lot, and they loved practicing their math and, and grammar and spelling. I'm a big grammar person. I have no tolerance for this adult world that we're in that doesn't know the difference between there and there. Like like that's just unacceptable. So, and my girls know that, but so they get excited about their grammar books where they get to correct grammar and everything. So it's exciting when you don't have to do it. So those were some of the things I could offer them. But just like you were saying, your kids have certain things they want to do, which could change obviously over the years. And my kids had the same thing. So they're interested in animal this and animal that. So we went out and tried to experience that, and their dad happens to be a mathematician and scientist. I'm a single mom now too, but we were all together at one point. So they would do some building with him and measuring, like all kinds of different things. And they, like you're talking, they would when they invite the parent in to help them. I mean, that's awesome. My kids still do that. I've been calling my almost 22-year-old at about noon every day, because it's 9 a.m. her time. She moved out, so she's very self-sufficient. Soon after she turned 19, she moved out to LA for an adventure. So she clearly has no problem, but she tends to get lazy in the morning. So she's really appreciates that I call and help wake her up. So so it's not just a young kid thing, trust me. I'm still helping her in the same way that I helped her when she was 8 years old, and because we just have that kind of relationship. So anyway, I talked too long.
No, that's so sweet. And I really appreciate it. Andrea, I really liked the agreements that you mentioned. And I remember you posting that on the group, and I copied it. And I think I need to print that out and go over it with my kids. And Cynthia, it's nice to hear stories of parents who have done this and made it all the way through to semi-adulthood with their kids. We're still at the beginning, I guess, where I'm still most confused. Partially my kids were mentioning this, but I think really I think I made a little comment like, oh, we have all these books and we haven't, because one of my kids pushed me to buy a curriculum at the beginning of this year. So I did. I spent a pretty penny buying 2 curriculum, and then we didn't use it. So I made a comment about that the other day. He said, well, I want to do math, but you have to tell me when. So that's what my comment was based on.
Yeah, I love that invitation. I think that's awesome. You know, it might be nice to just sit down with them and just say, okay, well, when would you like to do the curriculum? Is it better for you in the mornings or the afternoons, or and just say, okay, but also, you know, you can say, well, here's what I need from you. So that it's an agreement, and it just brings there's getting a lot of background noise. I'm gonna have to cut out soon. Yeah, it's a little after 7, but I think that's awesome that they're he or she is engaged, and I would just, you maybe have like a little family meeting, a meeting, and say, okay, well, how are things? But also I always like to say, when I have something that I want to bring up, I always say, well, what's happening with you? What is it that you want more of? And what my daughter usually says, I don't know if you can hear me. Is it getting too loud? What my daughter usually says is, I want more free time to be on my electronics and my devices. And I say, okay, well, how can we work that? How about let's do because we're very much on school, so it's about, now we're traveling, we're in an RV, so it's like, okay, well, we have to unpack together, we have to set up together, but let's just do that. We'll do it together, and then you can have your free time. And she's like, okay, great. What's next? And it's so awesome when she's engaged and she knows that, first we're going to do this, meal prep, clean up, I wash the dishes, she dries them and puts them away, and that's it. That's just what we do. And then she has free time. It could be 2 hours in the evening. And she loves it. That's what she's doing now. And I say, well, tonight I have a Zoom. She's like, yep. She's just so excited. So we did our grocery shop and we put everything away. And she's just so happy to do those things, because she knows that that's what I want. I want the house to be tidy. I want to serve good meals and have yummy food. And I like for things to be clean and organized. And so we both get fulfilled. And it's really awesome.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate the guidance. And it's nice to talk to moms who have quite a bit more experience than I do. Thank you both for your
You're welcome.
welcoming.
You're welcome.
And just a footnote, for every page that I spew out of my mouth, there's always a footnote on the bottom. Okay, it is not all rainbows and unicorns. I mean, I think we're all experienced parents, so we know that. So, but I think what we're talking about is just laying the basis for everything. But and so you have that base to work with. So yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And not every day is great. We had a super exciting morning yesterday, and then we kind of crashed last night. And she was like, I really want to be home, and I'm starting to miss my friends. So it's definitely ups and downs, and for sure. So, all right. Well, thank you both for joining. This is every Tuesday night. You're welcome to jump on, and I'm going to upload the recording so other people can see, and I'll put the resources that we talked about, and I'll post that again. I should just change it at some point. I'll change it. I haven't been making memes because now we're traveling, and we're outside and in the sun and doing all kinds of fun things. But yeah, agreements / however you want. I think I like the word agreement best, because when you ask a child to make an agreement, it's much better than to set a boundary. That feels more rulish. So I'll share that.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a nice night.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. Always great to catch up. I'll see you both in the group, I hope, and maybe next week as well.
All right.
Bye.
Awesome.
Bye.